Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want to tackle transfer foils. Now, if you're anything like me, you have struggled with transfer foils, and I know the stress that it can cause because it was literally me up until quite recently, and it is so frustrating to struggle with transfer foils because they're supposed to be so easy. You're supposed to just whack them on a nail, and in 3 seconds, bada boom, bada bang, you got a gorgeous, cool, beautiful nail art design, and yet sometimes it just seems impossible. If you are like me and you have scoured the internet for videos on transfer foils and you have struggled, then hopefully my video here will give you some insight, because I finally cracked the code after nearly 3 years of doing nails, and I've tested it and retested my method multiple times over on my own nails. As you can see here, I've got some foils, and on press-ons like this as well, just to make sure that my theory was actually correct and that all the tips and tricks that I have been implementing here and there combined together was actually working. So I've tested this out multiple times. It works. I have 3 simple tips to help you with your transfer foils, and hopefully after watching this video, you will never struggle again. So let's get into my 3 tips on how I mastered the transfer foils. Okay, so my first tip is to clean the back of your foils. Sometimes when we're manhandling foils, we're going like this, or we're rolling it up to put it away, or maybe we have it stored in a dusty corner somewhere because we've tried so hard to use them and we've just completely failed and we never want to look at a transfer foil again. Sometimes the backs of the foils can get a little bit dirty with fingerprints, with dusties, with anything, and that can really inhibit the smooth transfer onto the nail. It could get in the way, it can cause some disturbance. So my first tip is to take a lint-free wipe and some alcohol and to clean off the back of the foil in the area that you plan to use. And I suggest doing this right at the beginning while you are still, having to prep your nail and everything so that the alcohol can dry. We definitely want a dry foil. We don't want to work with something wet. As you can see, there's like little flecks and things. I'm going to take a dry lint-free wipe and also wipe it off. And then I'm going to be careful not to touch this too much. But for the most part, you want to make sure that the back of the foil is clean and not fingerprinty or dusty. So I'm just going to hold it from the corner and put it off to the side and allow it to dry while moving on to the rest of the nail prep. Now, this next bit is more of a suggestion rather than an actual tip, but I suggest matching the gel or the nail polish that you're going to be using on your nail with the foil. So pull out a color that kind of matches sort of the colors that we have going on here. As you can see, this color from Opry over here called Hey Miss kind of matches this little color over here, a little bit of this kind of situation going on here. Pick a color that matches the vibes so that in the event that something doesn't transfer over completely, maybe if you've had a wrinkle, because that can definitely cause some misses in the transfer, or if you put on too much foil gel and it didn't cure properly, if there does end up being a little bit of, foil missing, at least you have a color under that matches and can kind of fill in the blanks when you're doing a full cover transfer foil, and that way if there are little spots missing, you won't be able to tell. So that's really more of a suggestion rather than a tip. So I've cured my gel polish onto my nail, and now I'm ready to move on to the foils. But this is the tip that has changed the whole game for me. This is what really made the biggest difference when it came to me with my transfer foils. Like I said before, I watched so many YouTube videos on transfer foils, and even though I followed exactly what the YouTubers said, I still struggled, and the transfer foils would just not transfer over the way they did in these other videos, and I was wondering where I went wrong. And after lots of experimenting and lots of back and forth, I realized that this is what I was missing. Wipe off the tacky layer of your gel before going in with your transfer foil gel. Now, of all of the YouTube videos that I've watched, I have never heard someone mention this, heard someone say, wipe off the tacky layer. Even if your gel dries with a tack-free layer, even if it's not sticky to the touch, even if you think it's not sticky, wipe it off with a lint-free wipe and let it dry for a second before going in with the transfer foil gel. Now, I'm not saying that I came up with this tip all by myself. I'm sure there's someone out there who mentions wiping off the tacky layer before going in with the transfer foil gel. However, of the videos that I watched, I never heard anyone mention that. And it could be that it was just common sense and I was just supposed to know that and it was obvious for anyone else watching, but it wasn't obvious for me. And in the event that this wasn't obvious for you either, and this is what you've been missing, I'm here to tell you that this is a game changer step. Once the nail has dried, ready to move on to the transfer foil gel, and this is going to make a world of a difference. So my nail is dry and I'm ready to move on with the transfer foil gel. I'm using the one from Vetsy. Now here's where it gets a little bit tricky because I can't exactly show you perfectly what's going on here because I'm going to be doing the gel application. But I can tell you when you are putting on the gel, you don't want a thick layer. In fact, you want a very, very thin layer. And I kind of struggled with this too because I was like, how much am I supposed to put on? Do I want more? Do I want less? You want less. You want it to be a very, very thin layer because you want the gel to cure completely. And if you do a layer that is too thick, it might not cure completely and then your transfer foils won't transfer. Foil gel is very particular. It wants to work exactly the way it wants. It doesn't want to be over-cured. It doesn't like to be under-cured. Don't apply it too thick. Don't apply it too thin. It's very, very particular, and it won't work if you don't follow the rules exactly. So if you're unsure of how much gel to put on, err on the side of caution and do less. I like thinking of it kind of as double-sided tape. Maybe you're trying to stick two pieces of paper together, and you want to make it a seamless connection. You don't want to see any kind of like bumps or separation between the two pieces of paper, but you need to stick it together, so you use double-sided tape. You don't want the tape to be thick because then it will be obvious. And that's the same thing with the foil gel. You want it to be very thin. You want to make sure it covers the whole area that you want. For this nail, I'm doing a full cover tip, so I am going to make sure that the gel covers the whole nail, but if you only wanted to do a certain section, maybe you want to do French, maybe you want to do a cool design, like a sideways design or something, only apply the gel where you want the foil to go, because once it cures, it's very sticky and everything will stick to it. So apply it just where you want it, apply it very thin, and it's better to go thin than thick. And if this is the area where you have a little bit of trouble, then make sure that you're applying thinly. So now I'm going to cure it for 60 seconds. Most transfer foil gels do cure for 60 seconds and it needs a full cure. However, it's always important to read the directions of whatever brand you are using because some might differ. And like I said, transfer foil is very, very particular. If you undercure it or overcure it, it won't work. So make sure you always read the directions of whatever you're using. And now let's pop this into the lamp for 60 seconds. Okay, my nail has come out of the lamp after 60 seconds of curing, and here comes tip number 3. Tip number 3 is this: let the nail cool down for a second. If you do your own gels or if you've gotten gel done, you know that sometimes when you put your hand in the lamp, it can feel a bit hot. That is a chemical reaction of the gel going from a solid to a liquid, and it heats up. All the particles in the gel heat up and they move really, really fast, and it causes friction, and sometimes that can cause a bit of a heat spike. If you've ever experienced that, the lamp can get pretty hot. The same happens with the transfer foil gel. Sometimes when I've gone in too fast with the foil right afterwards, I'd peel off the foil, and instead of the foil transferring over nicely, I would just get strings of gel. And that's because the foil gel was still too hot from coming out of the lamp. So tip number 3 is let it chill for a second. Now, I know that I can't tell you to, let the nail sit for 10 minutes. Sometimes we don't have that kind of time. If you're working on a client or even if you're working on yourself, you can't really let the nail sit for 10 minutes. That's a little bit extreme. But if you can give it even a minute while you're working on another nail or while you get yourself a drink or something, just for a second to allow the nail to calm down, for the heat to go down, that will also make a huge difference. And that is tip number 3. So just to review while we're waiting for the nail to cool down, tip number 1 is clean the back of your foil with some alcohol and let it dry in case there's any dust or any fingerprints or anything that might come between the nail and the foil. Tip number 2 is wipe off the nails before putting on the gel top coat. Before putting in the foil gel. Make sure you wipe off the nail, even if it doesn't feel sticky, even if it dries tack-free, even if it claims it dries tack-free. I think it's just a good idea to wipe it just in case there's any kind of uncured gel. So that's tip number 2. And tip number 3 is once you do the foil gel, cure it for the required amount of time. And once it comes out of the lamp, let it chill for a second. And now that it's been chilling for a little bit, I think we're ready to go in with the foil. So here's the foil I'm going to be using, and I'm making sure just to touch the foil at the edges so that I don't get any fingerprints on the foil that I just cleaned off earlier in the video. And the next thing you want to be careful of, and again, this is just a suggestion, not a tip of any sort, you want to make sure you don't get any wrinkles in the foil, because if it gets wrinkly, then it's not going to be laying flat on the nail and then it won't transfer. The good news is, however, if you do get a wrinkle, the gel will still be sticky. So you can just place down the foil again and fill in the blank if you need to. That's another thing to be aware of. Foil gel is really sticky once it comes out. Everything will stick to it. So you want to be very careful. As soon as you place down your foil, it is where it is. It's going to stick immediately and it's going to transfer immediately. So make sure you have it placed the way you like it and make sure that you don't get any wrinkles in it. And ready, set, go. Placing it right down. Going down with my hands, fingers like that, placing down, going across the sides, and as you can see right over there, where it's starting to peel off, it transferred over immediately, but you can see I have some wrinkles, so I'm just gonna smooth those out, and by smoothing those out, they're just going to flatten out onto the nail, so I just lift it up off the nail a bit, pull it taut, place it right back down. And as you can see, it is transferring over super quickly. I'm just working out some of the wrinkles. And I like using my nail because I have a long nail to kind of scratch out the wrinkles. You can use a nail tool, you can use a silicone tool. And 1, 2, 3, here we go. And there we got a perfect transfer. I want to demonstrate this technique again because that foil that we used was a full cover foil. So it had designs everywhere and it transferred over fully, but the same applies if you have a design with a clear background. So I just want to show you that as well and just go over the whole process one more time using clear foil. So because this is a clear foil and I'm not going to put any matching background color to kind of fill in the blanks, I'm just going to use a light color that I want to be the background of this nail. It's this light pink color that I thought would match the flowers and designs of that nail foil. So just going in with a light layer. I'm going to cure this. I cut off a piece of the foil that I want to use, and I'm going to use a lint-free wipe to clean off the back because I was definitely touching it a lot while I was demonstrating in this video. So we want to make sure that it is all clean and free of dust and fingerprints, and then just going in with a dry one to help it dry faster. The nail is out of the lamp, and now I'm using a lint-free wipe to wipe off any sticky layer. Again, this is the number one thing that really made the biggest difference for me and my transfer foils. So if this is a step you're skipping, I suggest giving it a try and let me know in the comments if it ends up working for you, because I know for me this was a huge game changer, and if I can help it, even one person out there who's been struggling with the transfer foils, it would mean the world to me because I struggled so much with it. So I definitely understand the pain. So if you try my tips and they work out for you, let me know. All right, now that this is all wiped off, I'm going to let it dry for a second and then apply the foil gel. Okay, the nail is dry, going in with the transfer foil gel, and remember, going in with a pretty thin coat. Pretty thin over here. I want to make sure that the whole thing is covered, but I don't want the whole area to be thick. So I'm just going over it and smoothing the whole area, but not adding any more gel than necessary. Okay, that looks good. Bit of a fuzzy. And now we're going to cure that for 60 seconds. Okay, the gel cured for 60 seconds, and then I let it sit for a couple of minutes while I got myself a drink of water. And now it is time for the transfer foil. So again, being careful to hold it from the ends. And I'm just going to line it up the way I like. I think I like it like And I'm actually just going to remove it off of the stand. I find that the stand kind of gets in my way sometimes, and it's just easier to work without it. So I can get my hand under there and just keep doing some rubbings and getting out those wrinkles. You can use a silicone tool as well. They make these like angle tools like this, and that can help you get out the wrinkles. So if you're finding you're having trouble with pressure, try something like this. And you can see over here some of like the other images kind of like transferred over. If you don't want that, you can just remove that with some acetone. So I'll probably do that just to get a clean look, and then we can top coat. I'm going to go in with a top coat here. I find that foils can sometimes look a little bit grubby after playing around with them because they've kind of just been like touched all over. So going in with top coat just kind of makes it look less sticky in a way. So those were my 3 tips on how to master the transfer foil. 1, make sure that you are cleaning off the back of your foil so that it doesn't have any dusties or fingerprints on them. 2, make sure that you wipe off the nail before going in with your gel, with your foil gel, so that it has a nice clean layer to stick to. And number 3, give your foil gel some time to chill out for a second after it comes out of the lamp. Give it a couple of minutes if you can. As long as you can is best, but at least a couple of minutes to just chill and cool down for a second before going in with your foils. If this video helped you, if you implemented these 3 tips and tried them out for yourself, let me know how it went for you down in the comments below. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!